Yo, we rolling deep, let's dive into the fray. Hit that play button, we review every bite. From horror flicks that give you chills at night to games that thrill, yeah, we get it right. Remember that, step back, hold tight. We'll dissect every scare, keep the vibe right. Remember that, we're here to expose the thrills, the chills where the dark wind blows. From pixels on screens to the sound that glows. Join us forever, that's how the story goes.
Welcome back to Remember That. This is it the first episode of the new year, or was Alligator our first? I can't remember.
Alligator was the first episode.
Okay, so this is the second show of the new year. And we're trying something different. So each week, we're going to look at different, categories and genres of movies. And so like we're trying for like week 1, we're going to do a new movie. And for week 2, we'll try to do a classic movie. And week 3, we'll do an awesomely bad movie. And then week 4 is kind of a free for all. And that's the new kind of format that we're going to try to stick to. But, tonight, we're going to be looking at a new movie. It's a new take on an old classic. It's one of my favorite novels, which is Frankenstein. And this version of Frankenstein that we're looking at tonight come out last year. And what you it's just a few months ago, right? Because it's currently streaming. So we're going to be looking at it tonight and kind of going over it. Corky's going to be absent. He's our absentee member for tonight. But, Kate, I'm going to let you kick it off with the box office there. Or, I'm sorry, are you doing the actors?
Yes, I'm doing the actors. But you know what? Just for the sake of it, I will go ahead and start, and then I'll pass it to Brent, just because we're going to make this thing work. So I really enjoyed the cast. The cast this movie was honestly spot on. Everybody gave a great performance. Everyone down to all the Dutch crewmen. I believe they were Dutch on that ship. I mean, everybody was really, really good. But our main character, Dr. Victor Frankenstein, is played by Oscar Isaac. I think he's one of my favorite actors. He's done so well in his other roles in Star Wars. He was Moon Knight, which is one of my favorite Marvel characters. He's killed it. The creature, or Frankenstein's monster himself, is played by Jacob Elordi. He's been pretty popular in more recent media like Euphoria. That's been pretty popular with people around, Brent and Bryson's age.
Well,
so that's a pretty popular show.
He's got Wuthering Heights coming out next month,
right?
I think.
Yeah, he's a super good actor. And then we have Mia Goth. She plays Elizabeth Harlander. And then lastly here, Henrik Harlander. He's played by Christopher Waltz plays Henrik Harlander. So those are some of the main casts that I felt like really mentioning for this. But honestly, everyone was super on it. This was a really good movie. Not to spoil my review or rating, but this was awesome. So I'll pass it on to Brent here.
Yeah. So I've got the box office. This is Guillermo del Toro's latest film. A very famous director. I haven't watched very many of his movies, but I know he's a very famous director. This had a budget of $120 million. This movie was actually approved. There was 2 movies that Netflix approved him to make at the same time. Pinocchio and Frankenstein. And this was the movie he wanted to make his whole life. And we'll talk about it, but this kind of, he looks a lot, he looks at Victor Frankenstein and the monster as himself in a lot of different ways. So, all that being said, he spent a lot of money on this movie, $120 million budget. And obviously I can't find the box office number since it's a Netflix original, but it was the -- English language film, 29.1 million views in the first 3 days on Netflix. So a massively popular movie. So with that, let's get into the first part of the movie. Bryson, you kick it off for us. What did you think about, you got the Dutch. I thought that they were Russian, but they may have been Dutch.
Maybe,
you've got the ship, and they're stuck in ice. They're going to the North Pole. And if you've read the book, you know that at the end, spoiler alert, at the end, the Frankenstein's monster is looking for Dr. Frankenstein at the North Pole. So that's kind of where it all comes together. And you see this man. Well, yeah, like I said, Bronson, you take it for us. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so when it comes to what you were talking about with Del Toro doing Frankenstein and doing Pinocchio, so he actually decided to follow up Pinocchio with Frankenstein because Pinocchio came out in 2022. And the reason he did this is he always viewed both stories as two sides of the same coin. So he kind of holds both of those stories in a similar way. So he kind of wanted to put them together. Um, and then the beginning of the movie, I was stoked when this movie started because you go back to all the classics, and I love Borat. I love all the different adaptations of Frankenstein, the Universal monsters, and where it kind of all began for horror. But I've also read the book, and the way this movie started out, I got really excited because I'm like, oh, I think they're actually he's going to follow the book, and he does for the most part. Cade, you had mentioned who was it? Heinrich,
Yeah.
Heinrich Harlander.
Yeah.
One thing that where he didn't follow the book all the way is this character specifically isn't in the book, but it's based off of a different character in the book. It's actually
Interesting.
based off of Dr. Waldman, which was Victor's mentor, who kind of got him started with the idea of creating the creature to begin with. So there are some inconsistencies with Del Toro's telling of this story, but I think he nailed it. Just right off the bat, I knew that I was going to be watching the movie, truly. Um, so just the setting, how cold it is. I know this movie doesn't quite go into the book on why those guys are out there at the North Pole to begin with. But for anyone listening, if you have not read the book either, just a quick synopsis. The captain of that boat was hired to explore somewhere that humans have not been able to go. And he kind of took it as his mission to be that person that went on this expedition and was successful because no one else had been in the past. So just giving you kind of a story on why this movie is set in the North Pole at the beginning and at the end of this story. Um, and I think it's a perfect setting because you have a captain who is trying to do something no one else has done. And he would rather risk his crew than to fail, which is a parallel to Frankenstein, where he wanted to do something no one else has done. And it doesn't matter the morality of it as long as he can accomplish it. So I love the contrast. It's not even a contrast. I love the similarities of these two characters. And the fact that they're both willing to go to the North Pole. One, he's going to chase something, the other is being chased, or technically he's chasing Frankenstein as well. So they're both chasing something all the way to the North Pole. So it shows that passion and ambition. I know I'm being a little wordy here on
I love it. No, I love it.
No,
That's why
dude,
you're
it's
the
You're
great.
dropping
professor.
that knowledge. You are dropping
That
that
was
knowledge.
awesome, man.
Hey, class is in session.
That's
when
right.
Bronson's here, class is in session.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it. I love the way this movie started off. It got me really excited for the rest of the movie. So Kate, do you want to take on the transition here? I know it shows
Yeah.
the monster kind of walking through the ice here.
Yeah, this was, and from my perspective for this movie, I had not read the book for Frankenstein. My familiarity with Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster has just been, the famous universal monster, I guess you want to say, that, stems back to the 30s with the first Frankenstein film. I never really looked into it that much. It never piqued my interest, and I did not realize how deep of a story this really is. And so, of course, I love the way it started out because there was so much action. You see Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster basically out there just, ransacking Victor Frankenstein, trying to get him. They managed to their ship is stuck in the ice. Okay, these are actually Danish people. I looked it up just to make sure I was correct. They're
Okay.
Danish
Yeah.
people. So they're both stuck in the ice. They see Victor Frankenstein stuck out there. They go to try to help him, and then the creature, if you want to call him that, he starts to just take these guys out, shows his insane feats of strength. They basically get Victor Frankenstein up into the ship, and then he's kind of laying down. And then he starts to unravel his story, his origin a little bit. And then the movie basically goes back in time to when he was a child. So you get to see Victor Frankenstein's upbringing as a kid. You see his super strict father. You get to see his close relationship with his mother. And you know, typically these types of movies really, I get distracted and I might get bored, but I'll be honest with you, I was glued into this movie. The story was insanely good. The plot was great. The writing was great. And I really thought that they killed it with his kind of early upbringing. You can kind of see where he started to get twisted in the head a little bit, especially as we see with what happens to his mother. Brent and Daniel, how did you guys kind of feel about the origin of young Victor Frankenstein going from a kid to obviously where he becomes an adult and a mad doctor, I guess, or a mad scientist?
So, well, one thing I wanted to mention really quick is that this movie, Del Toro said that this is supposed to be a opera of a sort, like I forgot the word he used, but a type of opera. And so there's 3 parts. You've got the prologue, which is what Cage talked about. Now we're kicking it off into part 1. And you can kind of see the story progress in different parts. So part 1 is Victor's Tale, I think is what it's called. But it's about from Victor Frankenstein's, the creator, as he will go, as the creature calls him, through his perspective. So, Dad, what did you think about Victor's childhood?
Well, so this is another aspect that the movie kind of takes a little bit of its own kind of thing away from the book. I don't remember in the novel Victor's dad being abusive, and so I think it kind of took some liberties. The movie kind of took some liberties there. But I mean, I could see where it fits in. I could see where it would help shape Victor, kind of sharpen his drive. Because his dad just kept asking him question after question, and he would get it right with no reward. But the second that he got it wrong, he was getting his hands slapped. And then after he got old enough to actually become a surgeon, then his dad said that his hands were too valuable to hit anymore, and so he struck him in the face, saying that the face was vanity. That's pretty hardcore, and an upbringing like that, especially when Victor's mother dies. He was very close to his mother. Victor, his brother ended up being the favored son from the father, so there's going to be some animosity there. I think all of that kind of together formed pretty much a perfect storm that created his drive. And his mom dying, he really felt very powerless when it comes to death, and that served as another motivation for him to try to go ahead and do something that's never been done, and to actually create life out of something that is dead. So yeah, I was 100% into the movie just as soon as it started. Just like Bryson said, I was very glad that it decided to follow pretty closely with the book. When it started off in the North Pole, I didn't see the parallel from what you were talking about with, I knew that the captain, his crew was about to mutiny, but I didn't see the parallels that you just called out. So, kudos to you, man. That's pretty awesome. I never looked at it like that.
I didn't catch that either.
Yeah, it's pretty cool having 2 different characters. One has already figured out his mistakes, kind of, especially as he's retelling the story. The other one, he hadn't seen his mistakes at all, like the captain. So by the end of it, him saying, and spoiler alert again, but him saying we're heading back home once they got their ship free, he learned his lesson, and Victor learned it too late, but the captain did not. He didn't have to lose his crew to learn the lesson.
Right.
And there were some cool things in the childhood part of this movie that I wanted to touch on. One, his relationship with his mother. Del Toro wanted this to be very specific, and he actually used Mia Goth as the mom as well. So she acts in 2 different roles in this movie.
That's right. Yeah, I should have mentioned that.
So she, being someone that could potentially be a lover in the future, being the same actress as the mom shows that, like, it's very, like, what is it, Oedipus? Am I saying that correctly? Um, but then also with his dad slapping him, he actually slaps him, I believe it's in the right side of the face. But when his mom touches him on the face and bleeds the blood on him, she touches him on the left side of the face. When Victor creates the monster and touches him on the face to see that he's real, he touches his right side. When Mia Goth's character, Elizabeth, um, is being cradled by the monster as she's dying, she grabs both sides of his face. And then at the end of the movie, the monster touches Victor's forehead. So I don't fully know the symbolism and all of that, other than the right being anger, where Victor, touches him on the right side of the face, just like he got hit. And then the left side being more compassionate. And I think Mia Goth's character, I keep saying that instead of Elizabeth, but Elizabeth grabbing both sides of the face, I think it was her compassion for the monster and then her anger for how he's been treated and that she couldn't be with him. And then I don't really know what the forehead means other than it not really being compassion or anger. I guess it would just stand for just simple forgiveness. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting too, just the different hand placements throughout the movie. And
yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, just one more with the whole childhood scene with the dad being such a disciplinarian. Daniel, you're right. In the book, he was actually the most loving father and was very doting of his children. He wanted to give them the world. He was honestly a perfect father. And what's cool is if you look at any rendition of Frankenstein, the original, the dad being so doting and the parents being so loving, and he has everything that he needs, but he still follows down that path to create the monster. Right. You have another movie where the father's more absent, but not really, abusive. And then you've got this one where he is abusive. He is very stern. He's a disciplinarian. So having all of these different adaptations, it's cool because even though they're different from each other, there's always the same result. It doesn't matter what childhood Victor could have had. He's always going to make the monster.
Right. That's a pretty good observation.
Yeah, I never.
And in
never
this
thought
one,
about it that way.
his father was actually played by Charles Dance, I believe. And Charles Dance is a bad guy in every freaking thing that he's in. He's actually the head Lannister.
He's got that look.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that look.
He's the head Lannister. Can't remember what his name is in Game of Thrones, but he's like the leader of the Lannisters.
Well, about the dad, this is another Del Toro thing. From my little bit of research that I did, it seems like he based the father off of Del Toro's own father. And so I know that he struggled a lot with, Del Toro struggled a lot with his relationship to his dad. And his dad never really fully understood him, according to what I heard. And Del Toro was always interested in horror and fantasy, and he always kind of liked that side of things. And his dad looked at that as like evil and bad and kind of a waste of time. And so, if what I read was true, then he kind of made the father figure, instead of being loving and doting to his son, he makes him like his own dad, harsh and critical. But this does get to one of my favorite parts of the movie, which I'm sure you guys could guess just from my interest. But when Victor Frankenstein is giving his presentation before the class at the university, and I love that the monologue and then the response. And, Frankenstein, he obviously struggled with he after his mother died, he struggled with death. And what's interesting about that scene, about the lecture scene is that you get to see his relationship to God, and the way that he not only does he not believe, it doesn't seem, he doesn't care, he's actually mad. And so he's like, I don't care if it's right or wrong, I am going to create a being, I'm going to bring someone back to life. And you get to see the authority structure. They say, no, this is like immoral. This is bad. There's nothing moral about what you're going to do. And then he's like, I don't care. And so the whole movie, and from my perspective, and I know everyone's going to have their own different perspective depending on what they like and symbolism of movies and things. But to me, this movie is really like, what happens when man tries to play God? And that's what Victor Frankenstein did. He played God, and then he immediately hates the creation that he created. Unlike in the biblical story when God created man, and he said his man is very good. So there's you get to see the symbolism, and then also the doctor friend, I forgot his name, but the rich guy that was supporting Frankenstein's Henrik. Was it him or was it the old man? It may have been the old man, which we'll get to later. I think, now that I think about it, I think it was the old man. But one of the books that he makes the creature read is Paradise Lost, which is another.
Yeah, the old blind man.
Old, and Paradise Lost is, I mean, from the title, it's just about the fall of man. But you get to, so I mean, the symbolism, the biblical symbolism in this movie is really, really cool. And it's a little bit different than the book. I mean, I know that the book talks a little bit about that. I don't think that's one of the major themes. It could be, I guess, but
I don't remember that being in the book too much. I do remember the book was heavily written towards science. So science back when the book was written was not very advanced. And so science was still considered kind of weird. And so the fact that, it's a heck of an idea that Mary Shelley had from when this novel was actually written. The fact that this guy wants to create life. And so he finally gets a backer, gets funding, monetary funding. In the book, they start basically going through graveyards and crypts. They'll break into basically funeral homes, and take some of the dead bodies and dead body parts and stuff that they needed. In this movie, they replicated that with basically a battlefield. And so they went to these battlefields where the bodies were still laying there before they decayed. And so they were able to get their stuff there. So at this point in the movie, Victor now has monetary backing, and he is funded now. Now he has deceased bodies to work with, and Heinrich finds him basically an old castle, which I thought was cool. It wasn't. It was
castle, man.
It was less than probably less of a castle as it was basically a big tower.
It's the Dark Tower.
Yeah,
the Dark Tower.
So
he's got he's
got all this stuff up here, and he starts building his scientific stuff. And so this is where he meets Elizabeth. And so Victor and Elizabeth, they immediately have this connection. I don't want to say so much romance that it was, it was just a connection. Like they got each other.
There was definitely some romance there.
It was. I mean,
on the side of Frankenstein, there was definitely some romance.
It was romantic from Victor's point of view. I don't know how much the romantic was reciprocated. However you say that was, returned from Elizabeth. But what you've got is now, he's basically spending all of his time with Elizabeth now. and he's basically taken his brother, which is Elizabeth's, fiance, and he's making his brother oversee all the work that's going on with the scientific stuff. And he starts kind of kicking his brother around, kind of like his father did him. His brother would do something, and he would say, "No, it's not complete silver. It's an alloy. You have to do it again."
Had zinc in it.
Yeah, no, this is not right. You have to do it again. And all of this time, every time that his brother has to start over this work with the scientific equipment, with his engineers and stuff, he'll go back and he'll hang out with Elizabeth. So, you had some animosity there a little bit. Now, I really didn't see the brother, say or do a whole lot about it, but, it was there. And then, it finally comes down to, they're ready to go, and they've got the monster. He's actually put the monster together. Before we skip too far,
I do want to just point this out really quick with Elizabeth. She points out, she says something, one of the first times that they meet her, she's looking through a book of insects, I think insect drawings, and she says, I'm really interested in the small things of life, something of that sort. And so even from then, you see her character is interested in the innocent and the pure, the people, the things that she feels like can't protect themselves. And so you already kind of gather that from the insect comment. And so that leads into her view of the monster when
right.
The monster.
And she doesn't view it as a monster. She, that's where her, I guess, mothering side really come into play. Yeah. But basically, so it seemed like every time that something cool in the movie would happen or something important, my Netflix started blacking out. And so the whole
Dude, you need to pay for better. You need to pay for better internet. That's all.
The whole storm scene, okay. I missed probably half of it because I'd watch it for a second or two, and then it'd go black, and then it'd come back on, and black, and then come back on, and I had to restart it. I ended up deleting the app, re-downloading the app. Nothing worked.
Gee, that sucks.
And so I finally pushed through.
You want to talk about the scene?
I know what's going on, and I do know that there is, because Christoph Waltz, which was Heinrich, he kind of, has a confession about syphilis or whatever, and he is trying to get him to save his life, basically. And he takes some of the equipment after Victor refuses, and he threatens to damage the equipment, which actually happens. And then, lightning hits it, and the lightning kind of gets diverted. But I'll let you you and Bryson and Brent get into more detail on that, because my Netflix was on the freaking fritz during this scene.
Yeah.
So
I guess
before we
jump describe
into
a little bit of it.
Oh, sorry, Cade.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bryson. I was just going to say, with this scene in particular, I know basically what happens is Henrik, he confronts Victor here with his illness. And I believe at this point, Victor was pretty much ready. He had everything set up. He had his equipment ready to go. And the storm approaches. And so Henrik, he is trying to, basically kind of manipulate Victor into making him this new creature. He wants to kind of have his brain maybe put into the body of this creature so that he can live on because of his illness. And one thing I was curious about, I was going to ask you guys, if this silver rod, which is the conductor for this equipment, would not have been damaged or dropped, could we have had a different outcome with how the creature was supposed to be? And I don't know what happens in the book during this point, but that was something I was thinking about. I was like, okay, the equipment did drop. It did, get damaged a little bit. Could that have played a role into how he turned out, where at first, he was, very much monotone. He wasn't as intelligent.
I mean, it goes into what you think
about that.
It goes into where you think the soul comes from. And if you think that because basically what you're asking is, because the monster is just weird, something's off. So does the monster have a soul? If and that gets into, like, we can talk about that. We can get into that once it goes on. But Bryson, I think you had something you wanted to say before too. So what were you gonna say?
Well, real quick, before I lose my train of thought on what Kate asked, so in the book, it doesn't actually show, like, or obviously it doesn't show anything in the book, but it doesn't describe like the whole lightning thing coming down on the tower. It doesn't describe really how he does it. And I think that was clever, one, because at that time you are limited to science. There's not so much that has come out. So you wouldn't be able to write a lengthy, couple of pages on the way it would happen. But two, you got to think Victor is telling this story. And if Victor, by the time he's telling the story, knows how much of a mistake it was, he wasn't going to explain how he did it because he wouldn't want anybody to ever replicate it. So in the book, it kind of skips over that a little bit. All you know is he's getting he thinks he knows how to do it. He's getting all of the body parts together, and then he just kind of does it, and he just says that it worked. So I always love in the movies where it's big and dramatic, and the big lightning, and the huge, like, conductor balls and stuff. Like, I super
it's
cool.
Alive!
Yeah,
It's
alive. But to go back real quick, before we actually got to the part of the creation of, well, the birth of the monster, I wanted to kind of touch into the creation of the monster. So Brent, when you were talking about him showing all of the other scientists and he's doing that presentation, those special effects of that body, like, moving, was super cool. And then him crafting the monster was awesome. Getting everything perfect and all the different pieces put together. And when he, like, finally figured it out and he connected it and the thing starts just, going crazy, that whole scene was super cool. And Elizabeth seeing this and not freaking out, I think, is what drew him towards her more than originally, is because she had the same kind of mind as Victor, but in the full opposite way. He was doing it to defeat death when she would have done it to create life. And I think that's that kind of parallel there. She found the beauty in it. He found the usefulness of it. But yeah, so we'll jump back to where we were with that whole scene where Heinrich is wanting to have his brain be put in. Victor doesn't want to do it. And what, didn't they get into, like, an altercation and he ends up accidentally pushing him?
Yeah, he falls through the hole in the top of the roof, and that's did you see whenever Frankenstein picks him up and you see the big head wound on the back of his head?
Man,
he's missing a piece of his
graphic scenes in this movie. I loved it, honestly. I thought it was sick. I thought it looked really cool.
If a lot of that was CGI, then that was really good CGI, because that looked like it was some good practical effects, is what it looked like to me. And I believe that Frankenstein and Jacob Elordi was all practical effects. There wasn't anything that was CGI about that. And I'm huge into practical effects, so I loved it.
Even the setting that they were in, Del Toro said, I don't want CGI, I don't want digital, I don't want AI, I want plaster, I want people painting, I want people hammering. Like, I want y'all to construct these sets. Like, the whole lab was constructed.
It was an amazing
I forget
set.
what the other scene.
The ship was a real ship.
Yep, the ship was a real ship. He was like, I want this stuff to be here. Like, I wanted to actually be here. So I'm sure most of the effects in this movie, minus the wolves, you can't really bring in real wolves acting like that. But
sick 'em.
Go, other boys. Than that, yeah.
I mean, the quote that I saw, he said he wanted to make a movie made by humans for humans, which I really respect him for that. But we'll get into my thoughts about the was it practical effects when we get to it. I thought that there was a ton of CGI in this movie, even though I may have missed some of the practical effects. Beautiful movie. I thought that there was a lot of CGI though. But anyway, we'll get into that. So this is the climax of the movie, or close to the climax of the movie at least, is the creation or the birth of Bryson put it. I think that's a good way of putting it. The birth of the creature. And the lightning bolt strikes the rod, and there's electricity that goes, and the monster starts shaking, I think. But nothing happens after that. And Frankenstein thinks that something's gone wrong. He listens for a heartbeat. He doesn't hear anything. He gets sad and he goes to bed. And then he wakes up and he sees the monster standing in his room. And he says, hello, I'm Victor. Victor means what is it that he says Victor means? It's
I thought it was like champion or something of the equivalent.
It's
something similar.
like champion.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do remember
Victor becomes one of the first.
The meeting, but yeah.
But the monster really hones in on Victor, and so that's all the monster says for a while, which irritates Victor. And that's when he actually lashes out. But yeah, keep going.
Well, let's get in before we like continue on. Let's talk a little bit about the themes now that the creature is created. And so I want to know all your guys' opinions, like and I think now that I've thought about it, obviously the book does touch on religious themes. Obviously, any time that you use any time that you're trying to create life out of a dead person, yes, you're going to have religious themes. But I like this movie because it seems just like with Frankenstein's speech, that's not in the book as far as I remember. And
no, Frankenstein speaks in the book, or I mean the monster speaks in the book.
No, I meant his speech at the university. Yeah. So like his lecture at the university, I should have said, I don't think was in the book. So I think you can tell that that theme is more prominent in this movie on purpose than what it may have been in the book, whereas the book was talking more about the woes of technology and of science. Okay, to answer your question, would it have turned out different if the rod wouldn't have broke? Well, from my perspective, obviously not. And you know why right. I have that perspective, because I don't believe that a human person can create a soul. Now, the movie, I think, is trying to say something different, not necessarily about the rod falling, but I think the movie is trying to say something different, saying the creature does have a soul because the creature has empathy and he cares and he is loving. You see him have forgiveness at the end of the movie. So, obviously differing opinions, not that that's necessarily the meaning of the movie or anything, but just to keep the narrative going, I think.
Right.
But I love the symbolism of this movie, and definitely the fact that the creator, like, I think that he calls himself the creator at some point in the movie. He says, I'm the creator. And then you see almost immediately his hatred towards the monster. And in the book, it is immediate. It's as soon as he sees the monster, he's revolted.
I think that was a mirroring of his father to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have
been, at least in this movie. At least in this movie, because when you go back and I will reread the novel this year, but when you go back and you're looking at the novel, some of the overarching themes of the novel was the fact that it was so tragic that this creature, it didn't ask to be created. It was created and it was immediately hated by the creator. It was immediately hated by anybody that it came into contact with because it was so grotesque. Yet the creature still had emotion. And I understand that you're saying that the creature didn't have a soul and everything else, but even a creature that doesn't have a soul can still display a level of emotion, and it has feelings. And so those feelings went from being very hurt physically and hurt mentally, but it also lashed out in anger. And so it turned into a vengeful creature towards the end of the book. And the creature actually, basically forced Victor to create another creature, being the bride of Frankenstein, I guess, if you want to say that. But that creature, when it came to life, and the original creature saw it as an equal to it, and it finally had a partner, then that creature hated it as well. And so it brought upon its own destruction, basically, in the book. And so the book is so tragic from the creature's
I actually
point
didn't
of
remember
view.
that in the book. That is tragic.
Wow.
But in this movie, though, you've got
it's a very tragic book, and it has, like what Brent's saying, it has a whole lot of symbolism and some really deep, meaningful themes to it. So that was kind of my whole point that I was making.
Yeah. And I know Bronson has something, but I'll just add, since you're talking about the creature, the second creature, obviously this movie's different. It takes a different approach. I've forgotten the book that he even made the second creature, but in this movie he refuses. And again, that's another parallel between the biblical story and this story. Whereas in the biblical story, God saw the man was lonely, he created woman on his own initiative. Whereas the creature in this story, in the movie, the creature tries to demand it out of the creator, and the creator denies, even knowing that the creature's sad, because he does not want to bring another abomination into the world. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I love kind of the parallels and the symbolism with that. So, but Bryson, you were going to say something?
So I'm pretty sure with the book, I know he refused to make a partner for him, but at the end of the book, Victor actually dies before the monster can confront him. By the time he gets to the ship, Victor has told his story. Victor dies. The monster gets there. The captain leaves, and the monster tells the captain that there's nothing left for him and he's going to go destroy himself by fire. So in the movie, the monster is pretty much indestructible. You can't kill him, but in the book, you can kill him, which I think I kind of like better, because it does make him more human, which is one of those themes. Is he human? Is he not? Does he have a soul? Does he not? And in the end of the book, you see him like walk off farther into the North Pole, and his plan is to go throw himself onto a pyre. He's just done with it all. But when it comes to themes of this movie, I don't fully, discuss religion, on platforms like these. But for me, I think a soul isn't necessarily tethered to an individual. I think a soul is part of a bigger thing, almost like a swimming pool with the water being energy, that it all comes from and goes back into, kind of like a constant fountain. But for that, if you were to think about it that way, then yes, technically a brain being awakened could pull from that energy pool, and then use it to have those synapses that go off and that spark of life that creates it. So for me, a soul might be a little bit different. I think it's more of a collective thing than an individual thing. Um, Even though I love the individual self, I love myself, I got a lot of conflicting thoughts about it. But one theme in particular about this movie versus the book is I think this movie really focuses on how important the parental role is, and the lack of, or the failure of the parent, and how much damage that can do. Because if Victor would not have gone the path he went if his father was not so harsh. because his mother's death wouldn't have been so tragic because that only left him with his harsh father. It's like the one good thing is now gone. If he had two loving parents, it wouldn't have been such a drive to correct death. So, with him then giving life to the monster, he has now created life just like his father created life and just was so just cruel to him for really no reason. So it's like a repeat cycle that what would have the monster have become? Would he have become part of society? Could he have had a different life and a partner if he wasn't so cruel to him to begin with? And I know in the book, this is a cool parallel. In the book, as soon as he creates the monster and sees him, he runs from him and abandons. And then Victor gets deathly ill and he almost dies. He travels back home to his parents and to Elizabeth because Elizabeth is like, in the book, she's kind of like his sister, but they're not related. She was just raised by his parents. And then they were basically betrothed since childhood to be married. So he goes back home and he doesn't see the monster for months. The monster tracks him down and shows up one day while he's outside and is like, "Why did you leave me alone?" And he starts telling him his story on him discovering fire because he was cold and he came upon some hikers. They saw him, they ran. He went to touch the fire. It was hot, and he was like, "Oh, cool! Like I can stay warm with this." He started learning how to gather berries and feeling the sunshine on him. I thought that was super cool in the book, going into all of those details. And then we'll get into it here in a minute, but him going and viewing that family for so long. But the first time he confronted Victor was several months later. So he had to wander and wander until they confronted each other. In this movie, with Victor going to sleep because he didn't think it worked, all night when the monster woke up, it would have had to have wandered around by itself. There was nobody there to tell him what was going on, who he was. You don't actually see that. You just see Victor waking up. But if you think about it, that monster's just been walking around the house all night. And then when he goes to confront him, it instantly, like, Victor wants to be excited and he wants to care for it at first, but he just can't. He just can't do it. So I thought that that was a pretty cool parallel on several months passing versus a night passing, but still being left alone to wonder.
Right. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
I am
so
a part of the audience tonight because I was so excited to do this episode. I knew I wouldn't be as inept to go into the abstract things. I deal with so much like so many numbers and the quantified world that abstract themes and stuff I've always struggled to draw from films. And so when I watched this movie, I was like, man, I love the antithesis between, Frankenstein's monster being he looks so monstrous and he looks so I guess just kind of evil looking, but on the inside he's so pure. And so I was like, these guys are gonna have such abstract and well thought out explanations for this stuff. I just can't wait to hear what these guys have to say. And I can
Well,
already
that's
tell
why I
you right
said at the
now,
beginning, everyone has.
right? It's just
That's why I said
you
at the
guys are
beginning,
so
everyone's going to
well
have their
versed in
own.
this.
Everyone's going to have their own takeaway that they took away depending on what their interests are. So, like, my interest is on that, on the religious side. Someone that's not on the or not very religious may have got something totally different out of the movie. And so I feel like there's a ton of themes in here that kind of like what you were talking about, Kate. I mean, that's a different theme that we haven't talked about. How on the outside he, like you said, looks monstrous, but on the inside is pure, which is why Elizabeth likes him. And so, but yeah, I guess as of right now, the monster, he's been created. Frankenstein hates him for almost no reason. Well, it is actually no reason. He just doesn't like, I guess he doesn't like how he looks. I don't know. I think he gets annoyed that he keeps saying Victor and he doesn't know any other words. He's just mean to him. And so, there's some stuff that goes on with Elizabeth.
In the book, I think that he feels like he created an abomination, and so that is kind of the biggest turnoff here. In this one, it's played like the monster
like he's just disappointed in the monster. He didn't realize that the monster would come out like a newborn baby. Mentally, he was expecting, the monster. He was just expecting something different, and when he didn't get what his expectation was, it pretty much caused a turn off to the monster. And so, in the movie, we're up to the point to where the monster meets the family. He doesn't actually meet the family. He kind of hangs around their house, and he helps them out. And this is something else that I was thinking about last night is, he did all this work for the family. He gathered all the wood for them that they needed to keep themselves warm. He ended up building the pen for the sheep. And the family was always saying that he was some kind of nature god or something. The nature god was helping them out or whatever.
Spirit of the woods.
The spirit of the woods or whatever. And so they were so much more apt to believe that there was some kind of spirit of the woods that was helping them, before they would believe that it was the actual creature. And so when they did finally see the creature, and granted the wolves had already attacked the old man, and the creature was in there mourning the old man because the old man was the only person aside from Elizabeth that has shown him kindness. And he told him, the old man told him, he says, I think that you're a good man. I can't see you, but I think that you're a good man. And he had that kindredship with the man, the friendship. And so once the old man got killed by the wolves, and I seen that coming, when the wolves kept showing up, and I'm going, okay, so this is how they're gonna get rid of the old man.
I felt bad for that old man just by himself.
I did, I did too.
Yeah,
but
the one time they needed the monster, where is he? He's not there.
And so the monster went in, and he went like off on these wolves, man. And it was some more just really cool scenes. It wasn't like over gross or anything with the gore or whatever, but whenever the wolf was on his back and he grabbed it and he basically just skinned it right there.
Yes,
just ripped the hide right off
and everything. It was so gruesome.
He went awesome. off. But the one time that this happens and he is mourning his only friend, then the rest of the family comes in and they think that he's the one that killed the old man. And so now they're shooting at him and they shot him in the head and he's having to run off. And he actually kind of kills over, right at their fence or whatever. And they just left him because the next scene he's alone again. He kind of rejuvenates or whatever and gets up and just kind of staggers off into the snow. And that's another part of why the monster is such a kind of it's just a tragic being, because he can't not only can he not catch a break and he's got just this horrible look, but every single person that he runs into immediately hates him, like just based on the way that he looks,
right,
based on the grotesqueness. He can't catch a break and he's immediately hated by everybody. He's such a sympathetic character. Okay. And then in the book, he goes from being a sympathetic character to now he's a very vengeful creature.
Yes.
And so it didn't really show that a whole lot in this version of the movie. But he wound up basically finding Victor. Wandered for months, finally found him, and then Victor again rejects him. He asked for a mate. Victor said no to that. Caused a huge fight. I think this is where Elizabeth ended up getting shot. She got shot.
Yeah,
killed.
it was at her wedding.
Took her off.
Her and her brother's wedding.
Yep.
Yeah. And so he carries her off into the cave. That's where Victor comes. Yep. Cool.
But going back real quick to him being in the cabin with the old man, at one point when he's reading Ozymandias, it's a poem written by Percy Shelley, which is the husband of Mary Shelley. So I thought that was pretty cool. I found that in the research, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Shelley reference, and that is pretty cool.
Percy Shelley, he did write that poem, and he was the husband of Mary Shelley.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like where we're at with the movie, let's go ahead and do trivia real quick, kind of knock it out. I've only got about 5 questions tonight, and then what we'll do is we'll get to basically the third act of the movie, and we'll
I think Bronson's gonna take this one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll put our final thoughts in. So basically, I got trivia pulled up here. Question number 1, I think tonight's trivia isn't too bad. I think it's pretty easy. But question number 1, what did Victor's dad do to Victor when he didn't know the answer to a question?
Bryson.
Hey,
I heard Bryson first.
He would hit him on the hands, and then when he got older, he hit him in the face.
That's correct. So we got a point for Bryson. Number 2.
Professor.
Now, I've got this marked here, but you guys may have some debate on it. I'm not real sure because I could have miscounted. How many times?
There's going to be a miscounting in here.
How many times was the monster killed and then resurrected himself in the movie? In this movie,
Okay.
Bryson?
Brent.
I'm gonna say 3 times.
Okay, so I had 3, but when I was thinking back about it earlier today at work, I thought that I counted 4. So
Let me look it up.
I'm going with 3, and the 3 that I'm thinking of is
He got
at the
he got
beginning.
drowned.
In the beginning, they shot the ice, and he fell through the ice and drowned and washed up
Drowned.
about a mile outside.
Well, I forgot
I'm
about
asking
Then he ended up-
ChatGPT now.
Then he ended up falling out of the castle into some more water where he drowned again whenever the castle blew up. Then he was shot by the hunters that returned home after the old man was killed. And that's the 3 that I remember. But if there was a 4th one, I'll take either 3 or 4.
So I was gonna say 3,
Yeah,
but I forgot
ChatGPT
about
had
the
no
drowning. So I'll say 4 because Victor threw the dynamite at him, and the dynamite exploded,
Right.
and it didn't kill him.
That's a good point.
So did
when
he
did he throw
actually?
dynamite? I can't remember
At
that
the
scene.
end.
That was at the
Yeah,
North
in the
Pole
movie.
right before.
Yeah,
That's right before the captain and his men found him.
yeah, because
Yeah,
he
you're
said,
right,
"You
it
think that
happens.
this is gonna defeat me?" And he grabbed the dynamite and was like, "I hope it does." And then it
And
explodes.
started laughing.
And he's still standing
was
there. He's
laughing about
laughing. He's like, "Yeah."
And I don't know what kind of
That's
jacket
another
he's
one to
wearing, but
Bryson.
that thing held up, dude. That jacket did not get like completely disintegrated.
Yeah, it also had immortality.
Yeah.
Okay,
that
so
was still there.
that question I'll take Brent's answer of 3. So
on the
but
board.
I didn't
Oh, I
hear
thought we were
anybody
giving
else
it to
ring
Bryson.
in. Oh, Bryson rang in too, and he said 4, so we'll give Bryson a point as well.
Got him on the board.
Let's share a point. I say we each get one.
I
Okay.
got you guys down.
Sounds fine to me.
All right, cool. So we got question number 4. Who was the first person to show the monster any kind of kindness?
Hey,
Bryson.
Brent, go.
It's Elizabeth.
It was Elizabeth. I figured that most people would say the old man, and so I thought that was a pretty good little trivia question. But it was Elizabeth.
question.
She actually was the first. And then the last one that I've got is who taught the monster to read?
Bryson.
Cade.
I heard Cade first.
It was the old blind man in the cabin.
It was the old blind man in the cabin. And so that's
I was
all the
waiting
trivia
for
that I
Dad to
had.
say, unless you say his name, you don't get a point.
I don't know what.
Got to say his name.
There were no license plates in this
How many
movie, so
letters
I
is
knew
the
it was
old-
weird.
So who?
What's the
yeah,
old blonde
there was
man's
no. There
license
was no. They didn't have a house number on the castle. I couldn't ask for the house number
Yeah,
on the
there was
castle.
no-
Didn't
There was
have
no
it.
mailbox.
How many
with a
steps
little
are on
address.
Frankenstein's tower?
Dude, I love it.
Okay, so Cade, who come out on trivia? Who came out on top?
So actually, Bryson and Brent ended up tying 2 apiece.
Oh, 2 apiece. All right. Well, you know what? We had a tie last week. We're going to keep it at a tie because I don't have a tiebreaker question.
That's all right.
So we got
These
two ties. Everybody's
got it.
Everybody's neck and neck, man. All right. So
I think Bryson's definitely the philosopher of the group.
So basically, what we have now is after the death of Elizabeth, Victor is now tracking the monster. And so the monster left, took off running, and he was running at like 10 times the speed of Victor. So Victor tracked him, and finally, ended up talking to somebody at some kind of hunting lodge or whatever when he was getting some more ammunition. And the guy was like, what are you hunting? And he was like, big game. And I thought that was a little comical. But this is where you wind up with the final altercation between Victor and the monster, and that's when he picks up the dynamite. And he was like, you think that this is going to kill me? Whatever. Here, I'm going to light it and show you, And then Victor takes off running. There's an explosion that ends up crippling Victor, and that's when the sea captain comes and basically rescues Victor. So,
the creature straight up told Dr. Frankenstein that he's the one who knocks. I know Bryson will get that reference.
Yeah. You think that?
Well,
you think
this over my head,
me?
Man?
Sorry. I just derailed the podcast.
The creature's not playing any kind of humbug. I'll tell you that right now. All right. So,
he ain't humbugging.
Pretty much, while he ain't humbugging. While this story is being told, the creature had basically busted in and was talking to the captain, and the creature gave the captain his version of what happened. And so that's kind of how we ended up. That's basically the last third of the movie. And so now, Victor, he's let's see what. They're on the boat. The creature ended up freeing the boat because the boat was stuck. The captain ended up having a change of heart, told his men, we're leaving, which renewed their faith in him. And so the creature ended up basically pushing the boat back into the ocean and allowed them to escape while the creature just wandered off. So, that's kind of how it ended. Brent, I'll let you go first. What's your final thoughts before we rank this thing?
Well, I really liked the movie. And one thing we didn't talk about, and that's what Cade brought up, is the theme of not judging a book by its cover. Mm-hmm. And so I know that all of us, I'm sure, I know I have at points, felt like they don't fit in, feels like they don't have any friends, feel like, why, feels different and like you can't fit in. And I'm sure that's a common feeling with people. And so I think Frankenstein, or the book and movie Frankenstein, really portrays that with the creature. He feels like he doesn't fit in. He doesn't have any friends. Everyone's against him. And so, yes, we can get into the different themes and all this that I enjoy talking about, but at the core, this is a story about a character that doesn't feel like he fits in, and he's just looking for someone to accept him. And so, I would just say I'll try my best to do better as well. And I say to you guys and to the audience, if you know anyone who doesn't have any friends that may not feel like they fit in, go be their friend. Don't judge a book by their cover.
Well said. Well said.
Well said.
Bryson, what's your thoughts?
The end of this movie is awesome. Okay, cool. I really like how, I know we kind of jumped around a little bit talking about the movie tonight, but yeah, when he starts telling his version of the story, I think it really clicks for Victor. I don't think he really got it. He still held on to this. I created an abomination. I did a mortal sin that no man should have ever done. I made a mistake. And then when he actually hears the monster's side of it and what he experienced and what he felt and what he learned, And Daniel, you touched on this earlier in the book. It really went vengeful after he got chased out by that family. That was his like last shred of hope, because he had gotten chased away from everybody. And so he actually murders a couple of people in the book.
You got just a little bit of a lag. A little bit of a lag.
I'm not laughing at you, Bryson. I'm laughing at I'm laughing because I was waiting for you to ask Daddy.
How bad is it? Network, dude.
I was waiting for you to ask Dad a question. I was waiting for you to ask Dad a question and see him answer. Trying to answer.
We got Michael Myers in the back seat here. Michael Myers in the back seat said 40 million times in that one podcast, Brent. Bryson, yeah, I got a little bit of what you were saying. You were kind of cutting in and out, and so I was hearing about every fifth or sixth word that you were saying.
Oh dang.
I was trying to keep track, but yeah, I didn't. I'm sorry, I cut in on you there. I think maybe you just got a little bit of a lag.
You're good. I think I'm really lagged out, to be honest with you. There's been so many times I've said something and y'all don't react for like 10 seconds. and then I see your reaction to it. I'm like, oh no, like that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might sound like
the other part like is I don't know if Cade and Brent can hear you, and I'm just and I'm just can't hear but about every 6 words.
Him.
But
yeah,
his audio cut out. What'd you say? Are you
I
was
saying I couldn't hear him either.
Okay, well we head out.
So these guys have described.
Yeah.
We need,
so
we
what's
need
your ranking? You know.
All right,
Cade, say the creature's not humbugging.
That's right. That's right. We'll have to talk to our MVP about our connection issues towards the end of these hour-long episodes. But these guys have described the movie way better than I could have ever described it. But I'll say this. I do love the way this movie ended. You know, you've got this creature who is, misunderstood by the majority of people. He's been mistreated, especially by his creator, who you would think would love you more than anything because it's your creator. And, this goes back to all the symbolic things we've discussed from a religious perspective and from several other perspectives. But, the fact that he was able to forgive Victor Frankenstein before he passed away, shows the compassion that he has. And, whereas we look at this guy as, an evil looking character, he's actually kind and pure person inside. And so I really, really love the way this movie ended. And it's hard to really say how well this movie is, from a director's perspective, from cinematography to writing, to the setting of the movie and certain scenes. I mean, I just really enjoyed this movie so much, and I've enjoyed listening to you guys talk about the meaning behind all these scenes. I was really looking forward to this show just because of that reason. So those are kind of my final thoughts.
All right. Well, so I'll give you my final thoughts. It pretty much mirrors what everybody else said. I'm sure that it mirrored what Bryson said, even though I couldn't hear most of it. But basically, you've got a very misunderstood creature, just like what Cade was talking about. And this is such a tragic story, and it's a very sad story. The creature's tale is a very sad tale. And you've got tons of symbolism that's packed into all of this, and you can probably look at this 100 different ways, and pull something out of it. So the novelization that Mary Shelley wrote, is a awesome book. It's a very good read. Cade, I highly recommend it if you ever get a chance to read it. There are a couple of different versions of this movie that's based on the book that came out, that are really good versions. I like this version. I also like a version that actually stars Robert De Niro as the monster. It's got Kenneth Branagh in it.
I don't know if I can imagine him being a Frankenstein monster.
Well, it's a very
that's the mob version of Frankenstein. Well, Frankenstein goes to New York.
And I mean, when you look back at the Chamber of Secrets, and you got that big moron wizard that couldn't do nothing. Well, that's Kenneth Branagh. And he's Victor Frankenstein, and it's a really good movie. It's actually got Helena Bonham Carter in it too. But anyway, we got off track. Basically, my final thoughts are this is a very good version of the movie. I really, just like what Bryson was saying at the beginning of the show, I really enjoyed any version of this that comes from the novel, instead of just being the Universal monster. And Frankenstein is my favorite Universal monster. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch the 1931 version of Frankenstein with Boris Karloff any day of the week. But when it comes into, following the book, I love all the versions of this. So basically, we've already broke down kind of what our rankings are. All we have to do is give final ranking, and then we'll go ahead and sign off. I'll go first. My final ranking on this ended up being an 8. I give it an 8. I thought that it was a really good version. Symbolism was a 10. We ended up, having some really high scores. I didn't give the music a very high score because it's not very memorable to me, but it's getting a solid 8 from me. So, Brent, go ahead and give us your final ranking.
Yeah, I loved this movie. Like I always do with any of the movies, fewer discretions advised. There's nudity and violence, but this movie I rate 8.4 out of 10. So that rounds down to an 8 out of 10. I love, obviously cultural significance is a 10 by far, and just learned even more through Bryson. And gotta say, Bryson, thank you for coming with facts again. I mean, if any audience member has any questions about a movie, comment and tag Bryson, and I'm sure that he'll answer you back. He is just a fountain of knowledge. It's great having him on because I'll learn something every single time. So 10 for that. Special effects, special effects, beautiful. The only thing I have to say, too much CGI, I thought. But that's just my opinion. Everything else, cultural significance 10 and all that. Music was 6. That's what brought it down. Overall 8.4. That's an 8 out of 10 for me.
But so for the music, I gave it a 9 out of 10. The cultural significance, I gave it a 10 out of 10. Special effects, I gave it a 10 out of 10. There was some really cool stuff, and it was really the creation of the monster and just him getting the electricity to work and it moving in when he's doing that conference in front of the other scientists. Super cool. I thought that was really well done. Symbolism, 10 out of 10. Very symbolic story. And overall enjoyment, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but I mean, wow. Like I was really impressed with it. I remember Christmas Eve, my fiance, I guess it'd just be my mother-in-law. She stayed the night and she was wanting a movie to watch. And she was like, well, I kind of heard about that new Frankenstein movie. So we told her to watch it. And every time we'd go back out into the living room, she'd just be in there watching it. She ended up falling asleep watching it. So the next day I woke up and she had started where she had left off. And then called me a week later and asked what platform that was on because she was trying to show it to Donna's brother and his wife. So she wanted to watch it again. So cool. Very good movie. All in all, I gave it a 10 out of 10 is what my score averaged out.
Nice. Wow. Nice. Yeah. Very good. That's the first 10 of the year, by the way. And we didn't get, I don't even think that we had a perfect 10 last year. So that's pretty good. Kate, what's your final ranking, bud?
Yeah. So I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I really enjoyed this movie. I was able to follow and keep up with the plot of this film so easily. Did a great writing, great storytelling. I loved the characters in the movie. They had a lot of chemistry. I thought that Jacob Elroy, sorry, I always mispronounce his last name. I thought that he did such a great job as Frankenstein. It wasn't hokey. It was very believable, and I was just honestly locked in for this whole entire story. And so, for overall enjoyment for this movie, I actually gave a 10 for overall enjoyment, just because of that, and for symbolism. But after taking into account my other scores, this movie actually averages out to a 9 out of 10 for me. I definitely recommend this for those who may not like to look at deep themes or thought-provoking movies, I think this is such a great film. It's easy to follow. You can take something away from it, just as Brent mentioned earlier. We all can take away some good messages and good themes from this film. So I recommend this for all of our viewers. This is I think a must-see movie for this year, especially with it being a newer movie. We see a lot of bad movies. This was great. So 9 out of 10 for me.
Definite. So what does that get us to? We had 2 8s, we had a 9, and we had a 10.
That averages to a 9 out of 10
9.
for the Remember That
deal.
podcast.
Nice.
Good deal.
Sweet.
So
it's well deserved. Very well deserved.
Well, for all the listeners out there, Remember That gives it a 9 out of 10 for Frankenstein 2025, second movie of the year. We're off to a rolling start. So other than that, I don't have anything left to say. I think that we pretty much left everything out on the table. So I'll go ahead and say see you bye.
See you bye.
Thank you guys.
See ya. Bye.
Go with.
Yo, we rolling deep, let's dive into the fray. Hit that play button, we review every bite. From horror flicks that give you chills at night, to games that thrill, yeah, we get it right. Remember that, step back, hold tight. We'll dissect every scare, keep the vibe right. Remember that, we're here to expose the thrills, the chills where the dark wind blows. From pixels on screens to the sound that glows. Join us forever, that's how the story goes.